Being busy is not the same thing as making progress. And I know that sounds obvious, but look at how many of us live. We pack our days, we answer the emails, run the errands, and take care of everyone else. We squeeze in a workout when we can. We research, we plan, we make lists, and I'm totally guilty of that. At the end of the day, we're exhausted. So we assume we must be doing something right. But exhaustion is not evidence of progress. Sometimes it's just evidence that you're exhausted. And I see this all the time with women who are trying to lose weight, get healthier, or simply feel more in control of their habits. They're doing a lot. I acknowledge that. But doing a lot and doing what matters are two very different things. Stay with me because toward the end, I'm going to give you one very simple question I use with clients that can help you separate real progress from busy work. I call it the progress filter. And once you start using it, you may realize you don't need to do more at all. You may actually need to do less, but do the right things more consistently. That's a very different strategy. After more than 30 years of coaching, one thing has become very clear to me. Most women are not short on effort, especially midlife women. You know how to work hard. You've built careers, raised families, managed homes, solved problems, and handled difficult seasons. You've juggled more responsibilities than you ever expected to have at one time. And you've probably done that more than once. Hard work is not new to you. So when your weight loss becomes frustrating or your health feels harder to manage than it used to, what do? You work harder. You tighten things up. You add more. More cardio, rules, tracking, research, and my goodness, discipline. And sometimes what you really needed was not more. You needed better. You deserve better. And that's an important distinction. More is a quantity. Better is a strategy. And again, those are not the same thing. Think about this. You can spend an hour looking for the perfect workout plan, or you can do the workout you already have. You can spend half of your Sunday looking for healthy recipes, searching on Pinterest, or you can decide what you're having for dinner Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday and buy that darn food. One of those feels very productive, and the other one actually changes something. And this is where busy can become pretty darn sneaky because busy feels responsible. It feels like effort. You're not ignoring your health, you're working on it. But sometimes we spend so much time working on getting ready that we never spend enough time doing the ordinary things that create the result. And ordinary, I acknowledge, is not very exciting. That's truly part of the problem, though. Eating a reasonable breakfast tomorrow morning doesn't feel transformational. And going on a walk after dinner doesn't feel dramatic. Also, doing 3 strength training sessions this week doesn't make for a great, hey, look at me announcement. But those things on repeat over and over, that's where change happens. And I wish that more women understood this earlier. Results are usually hiding inside the work that feels too basic to brag about. You don't need every single day to feel impressive. You need enough of your days to move in the right direction. And that brings me to something else we've become very good at confusing with effectiveness: intensity. There's something seductive about going all in. You decide, this is it. Monday morning, game on. The calories get slashed, your workouts get harder. You clean out that kitchen and every darn macro gets tracked. You are locked in. And for a little while, it feels fan-freaking-tastic because intensity creates momentum quickly. The problem is that intensity can also create a plan that only works when you're willing to organize your entire life around it. And most of us do not live in that world. Let's be honest. We live in the world where work gets crazy. Somebody's going to get sick. There's dinner with friends. You're unfortunately going to sleep badly at some point. You travel and you have a terrible Tuesday. That's life. So instead of asking, how hard can I go? I want you to start asking, can I keep doing this? That question will tell you much more about whether a plan is good. Because a strategy can be very effective for 10 days and still be a long-term terrible strategy. You can absolutely lose weight on something you could never sustain. People do it all the time. And then they blame themselves when they can't maintain the behavior that actually produced the weight loss. But maybe the problem wasn't your character. Think about that for a second. Maybe the approach simply had an expiration date. Here's one of the lines I want you to remember from this video. If your plan cannot survive your real life, it does not have a future. That doesn't mean everything has to be easy. Healthy choices require effort. You know that. But there's a difference between effort and unnecessary difficulty. There's also a difference between challenging yourself and creating a lifestyle you constantly want to escape from. That's a pretty daunting feeling, isn't it? And this is especially important after 40 because your time and your energy and your money matter. You have other priorities, your recovery matters, your stress matters, your sleep absolutely matters, and you can't throw unlimited effort at every single area of your life and somehow expect that to be sustainable. At some point, you have to decide what actually deserves my attention. And this is where I use the progress filter. Very simple question. Is this moving me closer to my goal, or is it just making me feel busy? That's it. And once you start asking it, things get very interesting. Maybe spending another hour reading about supplements is not the best use of your time tonight. Maybe packing your lunch tomorrow is. And maybe you don't need to find a more advanced workout or fancy exercise. Maybe you need to stop changing workouts long enough to make progress with the one you already have. And maybe you don't need 7 new nutrition rules. Maybe you need to consistently eat enough protein and stop arriving at dinner starving. This is not glamorous coaching, but it is useful coaching because eventually you have to separate what is interesting from what is important. Those are not always the same thing. And here's another place women tend to get stuck. We assume that if something feels too simple, it cannot possibly be enough. There must be another trick, another shortcut, another variable or adjustment. But complexity can create the illusion of sophistication while completely burying the basics. And that's a maddening thought to me because the basics still matter. They may matter even more because they're the things you can repeat. There's a phrase that I've used before that fits here perfectly. Convenience beats conviction more often than we'd like to admit. Your healthy habits need to work when your enthusiasm is average, not just when you're fired up. That's the standard. Because anyone can have a great Monday. Lots of people have great Mondays. I'm much more interested in what happens on Thursday and Friday. Thursday and Friday are when your plan reveals itself. Are you still doing it when the novelty is gone and you're exhausted? Are you still making reasonable choices when you don't feel particularly inspired? And can your plan bend without breaking? That is much closer to what sustainable progress looks like. And I want to be clear here. I'm not saying that effort doesn't matter. Of course it matters. I'm saying direction matters too. You can work incredibly hard in the wrong direction. You can also do so many small, quote unquote, healthy tasks that you lose sight of whether anything is actually changing. That's why one of my favorite distinctions is this: busy measures how much you did, progress measures what changed. Did you get stronger? Did you become more consistent? Are your clothes fitting differently? Are your meals more predictable? And are you handling setbacks better? You should also ask yourself if you're spending less time starting over. That is progress. And no, the scale is not the only measure, but progress should leave some evidence behind. Otherwise, we can get very good at telling ourselves that all this effort must be doing something simply because it just takes so much time. And that's not good enough. So here's what I want you to do this week. Pick one health goal, just one, not 6. Then ask yourself, what are the 2 or 3 behaviors that would make the biggest difference if I actually repeated them? Not what you could add, not what else you could research, not what would make your plan look impressive. What actually matters? Maybe for you, it's eating enough protein, walking more consistently, and strength training a few times a week. You can get a lot of mileage out of those things. Now, look at all the other health-related things taking your time and attention, and start running them through the progress filter. Does this move me closer to my goal, or does it just make me feel busy? You may discover that the answer is not another habit. It's doing the important habits better. You may discover that the answer is not a harder workout. It's one you can recover from and repeat time and again. You also might conclude that you don't need any more information. You need more execution. And that may be the bigger lesson here. You definitely don't need to prove that you can work hard. We have covered that. You have been probably proving that your entire adult life. The challenge now is different. Can you work with intention? Can you stop giving equal attention to everything? Can you identify what actually matters and let some of the noise go? Because doing less can feel uncomfortable for a high-achieving woman. It can feel like you're slacking, and I want to reassure you here, you are not. Precision is not doing more. It's knowing what deserves your effort. And if you can learn to do that with your health, you may find that progress becomes a lot less exhausting. Not effortless, but clearer. And clarity is powerful. So, the next time you catch yourself saying, I've been so busy, add one more question. Busy doing what? And did it actually move you forward? Because your goal was never to become the busiest woman trying to get healthy. Your goal was to become healthier. And here's the sentence I hope that you remember long after this video ends. Don't confuse movement with progress. Movement tells you that you're doing something. Progress tells you that it's truly working. So tell me in the comments, where are you busy right now without getting much return on the effort? And what is one thing you already know deserves more of your attention? If this made you think of someone who is constantly doing more, trying harder, and wondering why she still feels stuck, send this video to her. She may not need more effort. She may need a better target. Do good, have fun, be well.